arriving on your mat. It's kind of like this is the safe space here. Taking a moment to see how you're feeling, letting your shoulders relax away from your ears. And today's class is going to be a full body stretch. We're not going to be standing up at all, so we're going to stay low to the ground today. Our first pose we're going to do is we're going to lay all the way down onto the floor. So getting your legs stretched out, laying down, feeling that beautiful support of the floor. Breathing all the way into your belly and letting go. Maybe stretching your arms up overhead. Taking a nice big good morning stretch from your fingers to your toes. And then letting your arms slowly float down beside you. Maybe bringing your hands onto your belly. Sending your breath all the way down to your hands. Letting your hands rise and fall. Close your eyes, checking in to see how you're feeling today. Where there might be any tender spots that you need to be aware of as we move from one pose to the next. Always listening to your body and making sure that it feels right for you. From here, let's bring our knees up. Maybe bringing your arms around your knees, pulling those knees in a little closer to your chest. Feeling your lower back supported on the mat. And maybe lifting your nose up towards your knees. Taking a couple of breaths here with your head off the mat. Breathing down into your belly. And then we'll lower our head and our shoulders back down to the floor. Let's leave our right knee in and stretch the left leg out. Maybe pointing and flexing your feet here. Stretching out your hamstrings, your calves, your ankles, maybe even making some circles with your ankles. And then the other direction. Letting your left leg rest all the way down to the mat as you bring your right knee up towards your right armpit. Getting a nice big stretch into your hip. Maybe even grabbing hold of the bottom of your right foot, pulling that right knee down towards the floor. Coming into a half baby pose here. Breathing into any tight spots. Giving those hips a little stretch. And then we'll release our foot. Let's just bring our right ankle to the top of our left thigh, letting that right knee rest down towards the floor. Bringing your hands back to your belly. Breathing all the way into your belly and into your hands. And then we'll bring our hands down to the mat. Let's see if we can bring that left leg up towards the ceiling, keeping your right ankle onto your left thigh. And then lowering that leg back down. Making sure you're not holding your breath, lifting it up. Breathing in and exhale, lowering it back down. And we'll do 2 more, lifting that left leg up. And exhale, lowering down. Last one, lifting up and lowering back down. Beautiful. Let's bend that left knee, bringing your hands through and grabbing hold of the left knee from behind, coming into a figure 4, pulling that left knee towards your chest. If your hands don't reach behind your leg, that's okay. You can just have your foot on the floor, maybe pushing your right knee away. So just giving your hip on the right side a little stretch. And then we'll release the hands if they're behind your left knee. Let's take our arms out into a T shape. We're going to let the knees float down towards the right. So feeling this stretch across the left hip. Maybe even looking over to your left. Keeping your breath flowing all the way down into your belly. If it's too intense for your right ankle to be on that left knee, you can always take it off. We'll do 2 more breaths here. And then we'll release the right knee or right foot from the knee, bringing the knees back to center. Let's let them go from side to center to side to center, like windshield wipers on a snowy day. And then we'll come back to center. Let's bring the left knee into our chest, stretching the right leg out, keeping that right leg off the floor. We'll point and flex our feet. Maybe making some circles with your ankles. And the other direction. And then letting your right leg rest down onto the floor, maybe bringing that left knee a little closer to your armpit. Breathing into your belly. Maybe taking your left hand and grabbing hold of the bottom of the left foot, pulling that knee down towards the floor. Coming into our half happy baby pose. Taking a few breaths here. And then we'll release that foot, letting your ankle, the left ankle, rest on the right thigh. Letting that knee relax down, bringing your hands to your belly. Breathing down into that belly. And then we'll place the hands on either side. We're going to take that right leg up to the ceiling. See how this left hip feels. And then lowering back down. Keeping that breath flowing. Pulling your belly button in towards your spine. Engaging your core here. We'll do 2 more. Beautiful. And last one. Lifting and lowering. And then bending your right knee in towards your chest. See if you can bring your hands behind that right knee. If it's too intense, you can just bring your foot to the floor. So listening to your body. Bring that knee in if you can. Sending some breath down into that left hip. And then we'll release the hands, bring your right back to the mat, stretching your arms back out into a T shape. Let's let the knees float down to the left, giving that right hip area a nice stretch, stretching out that deep muscle that keeps us all standing upright. Breathing down into your belly. And then releasing your left foot back to the floor. Let's let the knees go from side to side like windshield wipers again. And then we'll just let our knees float down. We're going to ease our way up into a seated position. And if your legs feel okay to be crossed, you can cross them this morning or have them outstretched. Just making sure your spine is nice and long. Let's take the shoulders up to the ears and letting them roll down our back so our chest is expanding. Letting your chin drop down to your chest. And then slowly making a nice big circle with your nose. Checking in to see how your neck is feeling. And then taking your nose in the other direction. And we'll come back to center. Let's take the fingertips to the mat, reaching arms up. Inhale as you bring them up. And then exhale, letting them float back down. Coordinating your movement with your breath. Inhale. Expanding and exhale, sinking down. Beautiful. Once more, inhale. And exhale. Letting your hands just touch the mat. We'll take the left arm, reaching it up, coming over to your right, maybe getting your right elbow towards the mat if you can. Sits bones are staying on the floor. Taking some time and breathing into the left side of your ribs. Expanding that area, giving your lungs some more room. And then we'll slowly come back up. Let's take the right arm to the ceiling and coming over to the left. See if you can get your left elbow down towards the mat. Right elbow up towards the ceiling. Breathing into that side body. And then we'll come back up. We'll do a little twist, left hand to the right knee, right hand behind. Sitting up nice and tall and then looking over your right shoulder. Sending your breath all the way down into that belly. And then we'll come back to center. Let's come forward into a little forward fold. letting your head relax down, breathing all the way up the back body, letting go. Then we'll come back up. Let's switch our legs. So take the opposite leg in front or on top. We'll take the right hand to the left knee, left hand behind, and looking over your left shoulder. Sitting up nice and tall. Breathing all the way down into your belly. And then coming back to center, let's come forward again, letting your head hang down, noticing how this side feels. Breathing into any tight spots, any tension. And then we'll come back up. Let's swing our legs around, coming onto our hands and knees. Getting your wrists under your shoulders, knees under your hips. If you need to pad up your knees, go right ahead. So your fingers are nice and wide. We'll start with our cat-cows. So as you exhale, rounding your back. Inhale, belly sinks down, head and tailbone come up. Moving back and forth. See how the spine feels. Noticing any resistance, any tension. Beautiful. Coming back to center, we're going to come into child's pose. So you might want to take your knees a little further apart, letting your hips come down towards your heels, and letting your head rest either on stacked fists or all the way down to the mat. Breathing all the way up the back body, letting go. Taking a few breaths here, allowing yourself to settle. We'll do some side body stretch. So keeping your hips where they are, we're going to take our hands and our head over to the right, stretching out the left side body. Taking a few breaths to settle. And then coming back to center, we'll go over to the left. Stretching out that right side. As you exhale, sinking a little deeper. And then coming back to center, let's come back onto our hands and knees. Getting your wrists underneath the shoulders. We're going to curl our toes, coming into a downward facing dog. So lifting your hips, walking one heel out at a time. Stretching out the back of your legs. And then maybe bringing both heels towards the mat, getting those hips up a little higher towards the ceiling. Breathing here. And then we'll bring the knees back to the mat, Let's bring the right leg forward, helping it out, getting it set up into our low lunge. So the left leg is stretching back, patting up your left knee if you need to. Hands are on either side of that right foot, allowing your hips to settle, to sink down, to relax. Breathe, belly, letting go. Setting your left hand on the mat, let's reach the right arm up to the ceiling. Twist here. And then we'll bring our right hand onto the left knee, coming up a little bit higher, sinking down a little bit deeper. We're going to do a little quad stretch today. So bringing your left hand back down to the floor, let's see if we can bring that left leg up and then lowering it back down, lifting it up and lowering it back down. This time as you lift it up, see if you can bring your right hand back to it. If you can't, you might want to bend back a little bit, or just imagine you're holding on to your left foot, sinking into your hips. And then we'll release that hand. Let's bring the right leg back, coming into a plank pose. So you can either bring your hips down with your knees on the floor, or bringing your toes to the mat and lifting your knees up. Pulling your belly button towards your spine. Taking a breath or two here. And then we'll lower the knees, bending the elbows, keeping them tight to your body. We'll lower all the way down. Keeping your hands where they are, elbows tucked in. Let's come into a little baby cobra, lifting up and lowering back down. Two more, lifting up and lowering down. Last one, coming up and back down. And then pushing yourself back into your table position, getting your knees back underneath. We'll do a couple cat-cows, moving with your breath. Beautiful. And let's take the left leg forward. We'll come into our low lunge on this side, making sure it feels okay for you, taking your time to settle in, focusing on your breath. Letting your hips relax. And then planting your right hand on the mat, we'll take the left arm up to the ceiling. Breathing here. Bringing that left hand to your knee, let's come up a little bit higher. Maybe sinking your hips down a little bit deeper. And then we'll set our right hand onto the mat. Let's bring that right leg up and down, up and down. Making sure your knee feels okay. Once more, lifting it up and holding it here, maybe grabbing hold of your right foot, pulling it in, feeling that quad stretch, sinking your hips down. And then if your hand's on your foot, releasing it. We'll bring the left leg back, coming into our plank pose again. So wrists underneath the shoulders, heels can be pushing back, or your knees can be on the floor if that's better for you. Breathing here. And then bring your knees down, and we'll lower ourselves to our mat. Elbows tight to your body. Let's lift up and lower back down. 2 more, lifting and lowering. Last one, lifting up and back down. Pushing yourself all the way back into our child's pose, taking a well-deserved rest here. Breathing all the way up that back body. And then we'll come back up. Going to come into a pose called cow leg pose. So we're going to bring the right knee up to our right elbow and then bring the right foot over to the other side. So it's like a crisscross. So you're bringing that knee over. We're going to see if we can, the right knee is on top of the left knee. And feet are out to the edges, so like a shoelace pose. Taking a moment, closing your eyes, letting your hips settle here, feeling both sits bones on the mat. Making any adjustments that feel right for you. And then maybe lowering yourself forward, folding over your hips, letting your head hang down, feeling a more intense stretch if that works for you. And then we'll come back up and uncrossing your legs, coming back onto your hands and knees, maybe taking your hips from side to side. We're going to do the other side, face forward. We're going to take the left knee to the left wrist, crossing that left foot over and sitting ourselves down into our shoelace pose. So I didn't say it was going to be easy today. So taking a moment, letting your hips settle, having your left knee above your right, shoulders relaxing, breathing down into your belly. And you might want to just stay like this, or if you'd like, you can fold forward, letting your head relax down, taking a moment to breathe into those beautiful hips. And then we'll come back up, maybe bringing your hands behind. We'll uncross those legs, bringing your feet nice and wide and letting the knees go from side to side. And then we'll come back to center. Let's lay all the way down, or actually before we do that, let's take our legs nice and wide, stretching out the inside of our inner groin, thigh area, letting yourself settle here, seeing how that feels, making sure your shoulders aren't up to your ears, closing your eyes, letting your legs relax for a moment, noticing where you might be holding or tight. See if you can soften those spots. And then we'll slowly bring our hands to the center. See if you can walk a little bit forward. When you get to some resistance, just letting your head relax. Coming into a wide-legged forward fold. Breathing into any tight spots. And then slowly coming back up. Let's bring one leg forward and then the other. Give them a little shake. And now we can lay all the way down onto the floor. Taking your feet as wide as your mat, letting your knees relax in on each other and placing your hands onto your belly. Taking a few moments here to connect back with your breath. Breathing all the way down into your hands. And then we'll stretch the arms out into a T shape again. And this time just letting the knees float down to the right. So keeping your feet nice and wide, knees relaxing towards the mat. You can take your head over to the left, allowing your breath to flow all the way down into your belly. Then bringing your knees and your head back to center. Let's bring our knees into our chest and rock. And coming back to center. We'll take our feet back down to the mat, having them on the edges of your mat, arms stretching out and letting your knees come over to the left, keeping your head to the right, breathing all the way down to the base of your spine, just letting go, making sure your shoulders are resting on the floor. Taking 2 more breaths here. Then we'll bring our head and our knees back up, placing a hand on each knee, and we'll take the knees into some circles. And the other direction. And maybe taking your knees in separate directions. And the other way. And then we'll stretch the legs out, bringing your arms back overhead. Taking a nice, big, full morning stretch. Breathing into your belly. Letting go. Let's let the arms float back down by your sides. Palms up, feet taking up lots of space on your mat. Closing your eyes and giving yourself permission to rest and digest all of the poses this morning. Feeling the beautiful support of the floor. Feeling all that wonderful energy flowing around you and through you. Today's meditative poem by Zach Beach is called "Behind Rust There Is Shine." It's easy to forget that you only get one body, just as it's easy to eat too much or too little. It's easy to want to trade it in for another one, more beautiful, less moody, that always wakes up on the right side of the bed without the creaky knee, bad ankle, or peeling skin. It's easy to forget because we forget that behind rust there is shine. When you come back to yoga after months or years, a crust has set up camp on your creaky bones, and cobwebs have formed in your too tight muscles. Remember, behind rust there is shine. Behind that second muffin is a desire to be happy. Behind that cup of coffee is a desire to feel alive. Behind everything you do for yourself, there is love. Behind rust, there is shine. Take a deep breath to moisten the cloth and grab your polish. Under the hardening layers of the heart, uncover the hidden in scripture embedded in gold. You will always be enough. So bringing a full breath into your belly, beginning to wiggle your fingers and toes. And slowly rolling to your side, bringing yourself all the way back up to a seated position. And sitting up nice and tall. Let's bring our hands to our heart center. Take a collective breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Breathing in and out. And remembering behind the rust is shine. Namaste.